Everything you need to know in order to succeed in marriage, from practical advice to current events. This is the XO Podcast. Now here's your host, Brent Evans.
All right, we're rocking around the XO Podcast Christmas tree this week. Welcome everybody to the XO Podcast, a podcast that's designed to help you thrive in life and in love. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, man.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It is. I feel it. This is when I actually feel like Christmas should be celebrated.
A week before.
Yeah, just get it. We're getting up there. But this week we're also talking about some things that can happen around Christmas that aren't always positive, like depression, addictions, stresses.
Yeah.
It can be stressful for a lot of people.
It's
Did you know that there's a divorce day, and it's the first business day in January?
What?
Because that's when everybody's waiting to call their lawyers.
People have been holding it together all holiday season for their kids, probably.
So it's real stuff. And we're talking to Dr. Scott and Leah Silverii. They're a blended family that's going to be talking about how, blended family dynamics even compound around the holidays. So they're coming up in the next segment. So we're going to be talking with them. But first, we are all wearing Christmas sweaters for those who can't see us.
We look
And
so cute.
It's all good.
It's festive.
I love your sweater, man.
Thank you. They had one with Jesus and Santa riding a bike together.
A tandem bicycle.
And I was just drawn to it. It's going to cause a church split, probably.
It's a thing of beauty, though. Santa
You're
knows.
keeping Christ in Christmas.
Yeah, Santa knows he needs Jesus.
Yes.
So he put Jesus on the front of the bicycle.
He kind of looks like the English-speaking Jesus from all those movies.
Yes.
I like that he's barefoot.
I think it's great. Well, I'm Santa's helper, and I look at this, and it's an elf shirt, but I feel that I'm Bob when I have this shirt on. Bob the elf.
You assume that persona.
Yes, Bob.
I like it.
The North Pole is real.
Will you be Bob for the rest of the podcast?
I will if you want me to.
That's okay. We're good.
You spell your name backwards?
Yes, I can spell my name backwards.
I think my Christmas sweater is cute. I've got like a red and white Fair Isle thing going on, a very large, very soft llama on the front wearing a scarf. I've just been petting it all day long.
It's like a petting zoo for Christmas.
I've never
for me.
worn a llama.
Just for you. Close friends and family.
Yeah, and small children.
And small children.
But let's talk about the news. We've got an article today from Fox News about how to beat holiday stress. They give 10 tips for beating the stress, and we're going to talk about a couple of them today. The holidays are a stressful time. There's just a lot going on. You have so many activities. You're spending money that you don't normally have to spend each month.
Right.
You're getting kids from place to place. Kids are out of school. There's just a lot going on, and it can be a stressful time for a lot of families. So some of their tips are to establish your priorities, first off, meaning if activities and experiences together are your priority, then budget for that and spend time doing that. If it's being with family, do that. But prioritize what you want to spend your time on and focus on those things. The second is keep spending under control. We're a little late into the Christmas season at this point, but if you can stick to a budget, try to make purchases wisely and not go nuts, you'll experience less stress in the new year because you've kept to your budget. The third is to ask for help. If you're feeling stressful, talk to someone about it. The holidays are stressful enough, so to keep it to yourself and suffer, nobody should have to do that. So talk to somebody about how you're feeling if you're feeling stressed. The next is to practice moderation in activities. It's okay to say no, especially this time around the year. Somebody told me once that no is an anointed word, and I've really taken that to heart. You have to prioritize for your family what you can and can't do.
It means no.
No means no.
No means no.
That's right. And the last one is just to remember the reason for the season. Brent's got it on his shirt. It's about Jesus. And when we keep that in perspective, everything can get a lot less stressful.
Amen.
So good tips. So keep those in mind as you're heading into the holiday season. And the next thing we've got, date night is a huge priority at Marriage Today. We talk about date night all the time. And so I put together just a couple of cheap, easy date nights that you could do. I know Christmas is right around the corner, but making the date night a priority is still important. So I've just got a couple of little things you could do as a couple, get away for a few minutes and do even in your own home. The first one is to go around and look at Christmas lights. Go grab a coffee or some hot cocoa, drive around, look at the lights. The next is to bake something together or spend some time in the kitchen after the kids go to bed. Just do something together in the kitchen. It's always fun. Go see a local Christmas play or a Christmas movie. I know in our town there's an old theater that plays old Christmas movies all year long. It's a fun thing to go do together. build a fire or sit by the fire at your house. It's romantic and cozy. Just be intentional. Spend that time together. Go ice skating at a nearby park or mall. Just make the time in the craziness of the next few weeks to spend some time together and get away and have a little date.
That's good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. It can be stressful though too, because we went on we try to take our family on like a Christmas thing once a year, and we set up a time to go see a movie in Highland Park Village, which is a drive for us, but
Parking's hard.
Highland Park Village is awesome Christmas. There's lights everywhere. So we went and saw a movie. I don't remember what it was, a kids movie. I can't remember what we watched. But anyway, we're gonna go to Mikosina afterwards. Go eat dinner afterwards after the movie. A 2-hour wait.
I know, it's nuts.
And then we're going to look at Christmas lights after that. And by the time we were hangry after the movie, it all kind of imploded. But we went back home and watched Home Alone. We saved the day.
Improvised Christmas.
Yes, it was great.
Good old Macaulay Culkin to the day. Right?
Hey, that movie stands the test of time. It's still pretty great.
Yeah.
That and Die Hard, my 2 favorite Christmas movies.
It's so festive.
All right, but let's talk about some other things related to Christmas. We did talk about financial stress and talking about spending money. And these days, buying gifts, everything is expensive.
Right.
And, you have so many people to buy for. Sean, how do you and Lynette address Christmas in buying for kids, buying for extended family, and keeping it within some limits?
Yeah, I think we had to get to a place where establishing the priorities for us was huge. It was difficult at first because you want to get everybody something. And then we get into what's the value of the something that you're getting them. So is it meaningful enough? Is it big enough? Is it a huge surprise that's going to make this impact for every person and you end up going broke?
Right.
And so
is it fair across the board? Is everybody getting the same thing?
Yeah, and so the bigger the family, the more stress and tension and the less money you have. And so we had to get to a place where we said, okay, what is it all about? Like, what is this holiday about? Can we plan for it better, save up for it? But then once we kind of got down to that finish line and we knew that we were at that place where, hey, this is all we have left, we're going to prioritize. Our kids are going to get whatever we can give them. And then we'll give them most of all our time, and we're gonna spend quality time together. We play board games, we go out, we have a good time, but we just won't go overboard anymore. Not for us. Our family's really blessed all year long. I mean, honestly, and so we don't have this mindset to say we need to make up for it or overcompensate or prove our love on this one day. That's why we make all this effort to be loving all throughout the year, and so we try to get it to a place where we say, okay, we do a devotional for Christmas with our family. We take our kids, we put our family together, eat a breakfast together, and we talk about Jesus. We talk about what God is saying in our family for this time of year, and then we buy our gifts, but we're at a place to where we've just told them, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how much we're going to spend. Tell us what you want. We'll try to get it if we can. If not, you hope to God that it comes on an after Christmas sale because at the end of the day, this is what we can do. And honestly, until my wife and I were content with that, it really didn't matter what the reaction of the family members would be or the kids. She and I had to get to a place to where we were okay with, hey, this is how much we have. This is what we can do. But more than any gift I can give you, I love you. So I'll spend quality time at your house. We'll sit down and we'll eat together. We'll spend a little time laughing and joking, but I can't try to prove to everybody how much I love them with the gift. And I think that was the mistake that we were making around the
because the credit card statement comes and you're always like regretting all this loving that you've been doing at the store. And it doesn't prove anything. I've got kids that are of an age that like to open stuff, so we try to get. This year we're giving 3 gifts. We said to them, Jesus got 3 gifts, you're getting 3 gifts. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So we're gonna do 3 gifts, I think, for them. But you end up wanting this part of the fun of kids is just opening the presents. So giving them something. They don't really need anything right now. They all just had birthdays.
Exactly.
And they're getting spoiled from their grandparents. And so we're trying to teach them really about giving back and that principle of giving back. So that's good. Anything you want to say about debt in the holidays?
Just that I'm bitter about I had to buy 12 white elephant gifts this year, and I'm bitter about it. So stop with the white elephant.
White elephant gifts to me mean prank gifts. Is that not true?
No, I bring a beautiful, handcrafted or expensive gift, and I leave with like a Donald Trump head or figurine or something.
Right. Yeah.
It's like something a bobblehead.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
What about a fruitcake?
I mean, not a fruitcake, but I would accept food.
Food is awesome. Like, that's enough for me. If I go to my dad's house during Christmas and he's like cooked and threw down, oh, please. We'll sit down, we'll watch some TV because that's all we do at his house. We'll watch TV. We may play a board game, but I guarantee one thing we're going to do, we're going to eat and we're going to laugh. And to me, that's one of the most powerful things. And I think we sometimes devalue that in the name of kind of living up to the hype of the holiday rather than remembering, hey, we're believers. This thing is really about the Lord. And this is an opportunity for us to honor him. But what's God's focus? His family, right? So let's focus in on our family.
Well, in part of the news, we're talking about the schedules and saying no, which I feel like is a very hard discipline to actually follow and get into, because you just feel guilty, you feel like a pressure to, not just with family, but with friends too, getting invited to Christmas parties. And then you put all that stuff in there with all the kid stuff, and you just wear yourself out. So how do you guys both institute a culture in your house to say no? And what do you say no to? What's practical to say no to?
I mean, it really depends on how many invitations you get. But at the end of the day, I think once we kind of look at our schedule for the weekend, I hope that everybody doesn't plan something on Christmas. But if they did, then I have to say, okay, what's my number one priority, right? And it's going to be a little bit of time with the Lord, some time with my family. And then I have to kind of go down the order, the rest of the list, and just kind of say, okay, one year, I mean, we went to several people's homes. I mean, we drove all over the city. We tried to deliver packages. We were wore out. It wasn't enjoyable. And so we have to get to a place where we say, okay, what's most important? And who is it that, can we arrange it for another time later this week or something like that? But don't try to be the hero for everyone, on that weekend.
And over communicating, I think, helps. Talk about it beforehand, well in advance. You're not flaking on anyone last minute. You're not canceling plans that you've made, not over committing yourself, but early on saying, okay, I can't do this, but after the holidays, we'd love to get together with you and do this.
Exactly.
And over communicating that and just committing to what you've committed to and not committing to what you can't do.
It's good. Yeah, that's great stuff. The stresses on marriage are real. Like we talked about, the divorce day comes up in January because people are dealing with it. So I know some couples out there right now, they're like, I'm just going to try to get through the holidays. Like I'm not happy. My spouse and I were already fighting. I know we're going to fight even more once we get into the season. So any words of advice for couples out there going through the season? I feel like if you can just give somebody a simple, like, a place of insulation where they can kind of get away from everything and get together and have this one thing that unites them, it helps a lot. Meaning that, maybe it's every day you start with a conversation, a cup of coffee, and you go, okay, today we're committed to each other. We're going to have everything that falls into place because we're unified. Something that y'all connect on every day, whatever it is. For my wife and I, it's humor. Like we can kind of cheer each other up through humor. And anytime there's stressful situations, I try to go back to humor to sort of bring down everything.
Yeah, bring some levity.
Yes. And so some people have different things, but what do you guys do to ensure that your marriage doesn't just fall apart during the holidays?
Well, I think for us, largely it's communicating prior to. I think that's a really big deal for us. She has a way of thinking that is really, really, really different from mine. Her expectations for the holidays. She has these traditional thoughts of what the family is supposed to do and all that. And honestly, this is the most festive I've probably been on.
Oh, come on, Bob. You look so festive.
Bob is not a sweater wearer.
He's a Grinch.
Yes. And so I could do without it and be okay. And so we bump heads on the expectations thing. So I'd say for us, we have to communicate and we have to have like a plan centered around what we're going to do with the family. And I feel like that grounds us. Our children really aren't, they aren't the accessory to our marriage. They're like huge within our marriage. And so if we can build around them, I feel like that sense of community and seeing the joy that happens when we spend quality time with our kids, that has helped us a lot throughout the years to kind of keep it together. And for some couples that are out there right now, listen, I mean, that may be what you need to do. You need to plan something around your children where you guys can get together and really enjoy it, but your expectations may need to be laid out. Exactly what are you thinking and what are your expectations for this particular holiday?
It's good. All right, coming up next, we have an interview with Dr. Scott and Leah Silverii. You don't want to miss it. They're a blended family. They're going to talk about the effects of having a blended family during the holidays. It really is a great interview coming up with them. Also, date night. We love talking about date night. I feel like every week I get a little bit better about talking about date night. And hold on. I did get my Datebox in the mail. And for those who can't see, this is a box with beautiful lettering on it. And I opened it up.
It's time for your date.
And yeah, it does talk to you. No, it does not talk to you. But it gives you instructions on how to have an amazing date night. In this one, we unpacked it earlier. You could build Christmas ornaments with each other. You make, I think it's a truffle peppermint
like
something.
Oreo peppermint truffle.
Yes.
Cool stuff in there.
Very cool. So what it does is it gives you an opportunity to, first of all, build a habit of date night into your marriage. They send this to you every month, something new, something different every month. So you're getting a new experience. But it also, you do it together. So it's bringing you together for a singular purpose of spending time with one another. There's opportunities for conversation. So good job, guys, at Datebox. We love what you're doing there. Go to getdatebox.com. Use the promo code EXOPODCAST. You'll get your first month for free. All you have to do is pay $5 for shipping and handling. I know because I just did it, and all I had to do is pay $5. So go to getdatebox.com. Please check them out and watch this extra clip. We'll be right back.
Jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bell.
Okay, things we wish we'd done is we wish we had started sooner praying and speaking faith-filled words into each other. We wasted a lot of time, y'all, yelling and screaming and cutting each other down. And I can't even tell you, Lord, the things that I said to this man. Thank God they didn't have Facebook back then, because it would be out there forever, and they would have known because I would have told everybody. It just prolonged our agony, don't you think? I mean, I think if we had just prayed more, we wish we had what to our exes?
Prayed for them more and blessed them more.
Ouch.
All right. I couldn't do that. I mean, for the first 5 years after my divorce, I couldn't even talk to my ex. It would just be a fight 2 seconds after we started talking. Because if you couldn't resolve things when you were married, it's going to be almost next to impossible to resolve them if you're divorced, if God is not in the center of your marriages, you know? And this is stuff that nobody taught us. Nobody said, hey, when I thought I was getting divorced, I thought I was going to be free. I thought, man, this is it. I'm going to get to start my life over. Man, things are going to be great. You know, yeah, I still drink. Yeah, I still have pornography issues. Yeah, I still like to run around, but I'm only going to be married, but only single. You know, I had all of these thoughts of what I was going to do. And then you get married, and then all of a sudden, all this stuff, first off, it goes away because you think, no, I'm going to make it right this time, and I'm going to will myself through it. Folks, we cannot will ourselves through this. We have to be led by the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is going to change our spouse. So all the yelling, all the screaming, and when we started to do the things the Bible says to do in a marriage, when I started to realize that emotional security was my wife's number one need, and I was not fulfilling that, when a wife is not getting emotional security, then the house of God is out of order, and she is grasping for anything that she can to get control of her house. And she doesn't know what to do because she doesn't know if her husband's going to be there tomorrow or not. So when we took divorce, you know, I say the D word, and it is divorce, but sometimes it was death, because she would say, oh no, you're not divorcing me. If you're going out of here, you're going out in a body bag, you know. And
okay, y'all. Okay,
and I've seen her shoot, and she can group I'm like, man, who taught you how to shoot, you know?
Because I had been married twice before, and I knew that people did not feel sorry for you if you got divorced. So I thought, if I was a widow, the Bible says you got to take care of them, and you get some free stuff, and they come and paint your house and stuff. I mean, I was totally going for that.
Back by popular demand. It's our favorite segment. It's time for The Worst.
The worst.
Where we discuss a song or the worst of any topic, a song, a movie, a TV show, anything. If it's the worst, we're going to talk about it. But today we're talking about the worst Christmas songs.
I love it.
In history. Mm-hmm. Here's our first one.
Baby, it's bad out there.
Say what's in this
No
ring?
cabs to be had out there.
Guys, this is low-key the worst Christmas song
It is.
that's ever existed. Given the current cultural climate, I'm surprised we're even allowed to play this. She literally says the answer is no, and he's trying to guilt her into staying the night.
Yeah. And he has like 100,000 excuses as to why she needs to stay trapped in his presence.
And she's concerned that he's put something in her drink. Why is this okay?
I don't know.
It's like if Louis Armstrong sings it or Zooey Deschanel, all of a sudden it's so cute.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think of Elf. I'm sorry. I know I didn't pay attention to the words.
And he's in her shower while she's showering
I know.
while they're singing that song.
That's tough.
So innocent, but so dirty.
That's the worst.
I don't know what to
What's
say.
the sense in hurting my pride? I can't with the...
Listen, I get it. It's a great Christmas song. The lyrics are terrible.
What's great about it?
I mean, the whole bantering back and forth, it's very, if you didn't.
It's supposed to be flirting.
Yes, but it's also, yeah.
Take off the roofie and it's cute.
But if you.
That is the worst.
It's stalker-like.
I didn't say anything about the sexual predator part of it. I'm talking about
the sexual predator,
the music and the duet and the part. That's all. But yes,
it's supposed to be flirtatious. It's not.
What?
It's
creepy.
It's wrong.
Moving on.
Please, Daddy, don't get drunk this Christmas.
Please, Daddy, don't get drunk this Christmas.
This is so bad.
Oh, this is sad.
It's an honest song.
Why is he begging his daddy not to? Oh.
That is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Honestly, this daddy probably gets drunk a lot more than Christmas.
Yeah. But this Christmas, this is my prayer request, that you don't get drunk this Christmas.
All I want for Christmas is my dad not to be drunk.
Because last Christmas, you know what you did under the Christmas tree.
You guys, it's the best time of the year. I want
stress.
It's horrible. Okay, bands that shouldn't be allowed to write a Christmas song. AC/DC, number one. First of all, electric guitar and a nice, riff of "I Want a Mistress for Christmas."
Fail.
It's a little more forward than "Baby It's Cold Outside," right?
He was honest.
He's going out there and he's just telling him what he wants.
That's who that kid saw kissing Santa Claus. I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus. It was, maybe it's that.
You have to admit, though, "Mistress for Christmas," I mean, it's just out there waiting for some hairband to grab.
I don't know. I don't know that it's that on the nose.
It kind of goes like "Mistress Christmas," got a little
Why
lyrical.
Are you in defense of all of these horrible songs?
There's an artistic form out there that people are trying to express themselves. Really? And if they're good or bad, I don't know. But all I'm saying is,
you're getting coal for Christmas.
Santa on my sweater here, we're buddies. And
Jesus is right next to you listening.
Jesus, I covered Jesus up.
Jesus on the shirt looking up. Come on.
Lock it up.
Charlie, I'm pregnant.
Why is
The name of this song is Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis, which is oddly specific.
Charlie, I'm pregnant.
That is the worst.
Why do you have to ruin and taint such a beautiful time of year with a Christmas song about a hooker?
They keeping it real. He messed around. He got her pregnant. She wrote that letter.
This is not Usher's Confessions. This is Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis. I'm not okay with it.
That's kind of...
What's getting me is his voice. Is it Charlie, I'm pregnant?
he believes it. He's riding it from... Yeah, there are some people that shouldn't write Christmas songs.
Yeah.
They have no ability to bring in that mood and festive of Christmas.
The world.
Yeah, that is the worst.
The worst. The absolute worst.
Dashing through the snow and I want north.
Okay, welcome back to the XO Podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping you and your spouse thrive in life and love. We have some special guests with us today, some friends of ours, Scott, Dr. Scott.
Thank you.
And Leah Silverii. Welcome to the podcast.
We appreciate it. We love Marriage Today. We love what y'all are doing, and we're just thankful to be a part of it. But by introduction, my name is Scott Silverii. My background, I've been law enforcement my entire career. I retired as a chief of police in 2015. 4 years left in my contract, and God said, it's time to leave. And I asked him, are you serious? He said, I want you to leave. And I obeyed, and I retired 2 weeks later. I also have a PhD in cultural anthropology, which I still have no idea what I'm supposed to do with that. But by the grace of God, I met Leah, and my wife Leah is a writer. She was actually, in her real life, she was a band director, Texas high school football. She graduated TCU, and she's a mystery and thriller writer, and USA and New York Times bestseller list 24 times. And we're working together on nonfiction books for life after divorce and blended families. And that's where God led us both, was to kind of leave our real life careers and start serving Him instead of public service. And that's where we are today. And that's where we were able to meet you and your dad and the crew.
Yeah, we met you all at the XO Cruise. Well, originally met you at the Marriage on the Rock certification program.
Right.
Congratulations, you're certified leaders.
I know, it was awesome.
Yeah, and then right after that, you got on the the cruise ship. I didn't know who you were, and I was sitting behind you for 13 hours, basically, or not the entire time, but from London to Venice, I was right behind you.
Yeah.
And got on the boat and got to know more about you and your story, and just love it. Know that y'all are passionate about marriage. Know that you're passionate about the season of life that you're in. But you are an accomplished author, and you don't give yourself enough credit. New York Times best-selling author is a big deal.
I know. I like to fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Because you get to that point where it's. I think that as you go through life, like the goals change. When like before God was the center, it was like, I had these aspirations. Like New York Times was my top list, top of the list. And to keep writing books and it's not as big of a deal anymore. And it's your passion changes and your goals change when your priorities change. So.
What led you to Scott? 'Cause I know that's kind of how y'all got to know each other.
It did.
And,
that was the reason. And led us together. So because we met at a writers conference.
Yeah, I just finished. I published, or a publisher had bought my manuscript for my research on my dissertation. They published a textbook, and I don't think any college student in America has ever read my textbook. And but writers started to read it because it's a multi-year look at undercover and special operations, which is what I worked most of my career. So writers were reading it to give them the insight into what real life kind of alpha characters are about.
It was the best comprehensive for me for research, like what that life was really like, so I could write real characters.
So I was at a conference teaching in North Carolina, and she came up after the class, and I thought it was just a pickup line.
This is a completely true story.
Was it a pickup line? Was there a pickup line involved?
In his mind, it was a pickup line. In my mind, I was just working.
She was, yeah.
Oh, God.
But yeah, we met, and then we totally connected, and we both been divorced, and we connected immediately, and then we rushed, well, not rushed, but God led us to where we married, and we thought we had it all figured out, and then we realized we don't, and that's where God really led us into this ministry for Blended. We have 7 kids between us, and
we started out with we got married. And then we realized we live in 2 different states. We have 7 children between us. We've got 2 very high-profile careers, and all the things that go with that, and then we got married, and then we had to figure it out after after the fact.
And Marriage Today is a huge part of that.
Proponent.
It really has been. So that's why we were so fired up about Marriage on the Rock. We want to. That was our prayer. We were like, God, you saved our marriage. We want to pay it forward.
Right.
If we can only help one couple. So we had the passion. It's like you have the will, but you don't have the way. And when we discovered Marriage Today and the Marriage on the Rock, we were so excited to take the certification course. So we really feel like God's brought us all the way around to where He saved our marriage. He's allowing us the resources to make good on our promise to help others, and He gave us the resources through that certification to help other people. So it's a perfect circle that was created.
Well, that's what we want to do today, is to help people. This is the Christmas season, and people are getting together as family. And I don't know, I just read this the other day, but Divorce Day is considered one of the biggest divorce days of the year, the first business day in January, because everybody goes through the holidays, and then they're waiting to call their lawyer after the holidays are over.
Right.
So the aspect of blended family, though, you have even more complications because of just all the moving parts and pieces. So help our listening audience understand, how a blended family approaches Christmas, and how in y'all's family you deal with ex-spouses, maybe more than one Christmas for the kids.
Yeah. Well, we focus on the marriage model. God's always first. We're second spouses, and our kids run a close third, and we let them know you run a close third. But it's easy to get caught in that mix of multiple holidays, different households, unmet expectations. But we always make sure that we share that, and we share it with our kids. God comes number one. Jesus is the reason for the season, and we make sure that always stays. And then on the practical side, I know a lot of folks they'll throw their spouse under the bus for the sake of Junior's happy Christmas. Well, Junior will forget about that battery-operated toy by the 27th of December. But your spouse, that's a seed of discontent that you planted, and that may grow throughout the entire year or until January 1st when they're calling the next lawyer.
Right.
So our practical side or the tips or that, number one, keep the reason for the season number one. That keeps your focus. But, your spouse comes second. And it's all about communicating with your spouse to make sure that, we talk about like deconstructing. We talk about that. We talk about kind of like deconstructing old traditions,
Right.
To make sure you're sensitive about that. Like tell them some of the stuff we've done.
Well, just as far as the old traditions, you don't want to do anything that you did with your old spouse, and your old family. So when he's talking about deconstructing traditions, it's time to create new. Like if it's something that, like in my family, since I was a child, everybody got pajamas the night before. And so like when we first
bunny
met,
slippers and everything, bunny pajamas.
Like full zip up footy
Christmas story, yeah.
I've got great pictures of Scott in footy pajamas. But like when our first Christmas, and it was like, well, this is what we do. This is our tradition. There was like a disconnect there because it was like, well, this is a tradition you did with your first husband, or so you don't want to bring traditions in because it leaves your spouse out of the mix. So really just communication.
And then the other thing, like in my family growing up, the family, we all got together Christmas Eve. That was the biggest part of the year, biggest part of the Christmas holiday. And then Santa Claus would come Christmas morning, and the gifts were all laid out. But that transcended my first marriage, and that was important for me to share with her. Was my son, Max is my young son that's under roof with us, and it's like that's the way he's always done it. And so her curiosity is that the way you and Max's mother did this? So once we communicated and said, no, this has been a long-standing family tradition. And so that's one of the big things, like Leah said.
Do you add new things in there to make it more of
establishing new traditions?
And I think that's really important. One of the things you were talking about is, we plan. We are big planners. I'm a big planner. And I love
a list maker.
I love calendars and I love lists, and you have to have them with a blended family. But once you get the dates, like we have an every other year for all the kids. They're all on the same schedule all the time. And some years we have the kids Christmas Day, and then the next year we'll have them the 26th, the day after. And we make Christmas Day our day, the day that the kids are. But once we have the date set, there's really not a lot else that we have to emotionally involve ourselves in, as far as what the other ex-spouse is doing and things like that, because we're very protective of our family. And, we let the kids know. And we're never, like, discouraging or anything, because the kids do have loyalties, to their real dad or real mom, or, and vice versa, and the step-parents and everything else. But we never let them know, well, you shouldn't feel good, or you should feel bad about doing this at your dad's house, So we always want them to have fun and to enjoy, but we're also very protective. This is our family, this is our house, this is what we're going to do here. And boundaries is a big part of blended family life, setting up those boundaries.
It's good. Are the kids ever used as like a way to get back, or used as pawns in the scheme of, or is this the opportunity? Has it ever been an issue where ex-spouses pull stuff around Christmas just to kind of
more on one side than the other, I think.
Yeah, if it goes uncommunicated, it can. Little things like, most blended families, they're operating under custodial agreements, so there's that legal obligation. But it could be things like competition, like overdoing it for one kid, so to kind of diminish on the other side. But we've not experienced it because we communicate. Like Leah said, we set boundaries, and not to keep anybody out, but to protect us, to keep things in.
Like the kids, none of the kids know what's going on in the adult life, and we were very careful about all of that.
But I can tell you, like going back to my career in law enforcement, we were all on duty during the holidays, and we keep focusing on Christmas, but it's a lot of the holidays. But that happens all the time, where they don't make it on time, or they're not going to show up, or they're purposely late, or and so we've been fortunate that it's not to that level. But I think it's because we communicate often. And even sometimes if it's adversarial, we're talking about with the other parents, we still communicate. And you know, sometimes you just gotta, like I always go back to my law enforcement days, talking about, I would tell my SWAT operators, you know, it's like your plan's gotta be like your backbone. It's gotta be strong enough to support the body, but adjustable enough to flex and bend. And that's the way we look at holidays and family planning is, you know, this is our day. But you know what? If the airplane is late, there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
So we're not going to ruin everybody's time. We're just going to flex. And so like Leah said, there are boundaries, but there's also flexibility in there. And so we found that works best with us. But yeah, nationwide, sure, those are tricks that are played. It's always a power struggle. And so, you know, you're talking about even, you know, in first marriages, you know, you've got in-laws either side. But now, you know, you've got two blended families. Right. That's 4 sets of families that you're probably semi-dreading going to at least 3 of them. So you got to make those choices.
Well, and it's so important to keep the kids in mind. You know, you think about as an adult, you know, what you just said, 4 blended families all of a sudden, because like my kids, you know, their dad has a wife and they have their own children and you know, and same thing on that side, you know, and for us, it's just 2 sets of adults. And for the kids, it's a full set of new family, you know, and it can be extremely overwhelming for them, you know, to be like, well, wait, you know, where is our anchor? Where is our tradition? Where is our, you know?
It's us giving them permission to enjoy their time. I think it takes the pressure off. Because naturally, you know, when you do, like she said, you have to be aware of love and loss. I mean, loss and loyalty. And children feel that. I mean, they know that their biological mom or dad's not part of that day's celebration, but their other parent is. So when they go, like we all said goodbye the other day, and we won't see them until December 26th. But we hugged them and we told them we loved them, and like, man, you guys have a great time. And that was our marching orders. And you know, and then we'll FaceTime them probably before Christmas. But it's always giving them the permission to enjoy their time away from us.
Right.
Taking a step back, just looking at the bigger picture of blended families, and creating an environment where maybe you send your kids off and they go to a home that's not exactly the same spiritual dimension that you would like. So their influences are different, what they're, you know, exposed to. How do you ensure that your kids are having a healthy foundation no matter where they are?
Ooh, we pray about that.
We pray about
every day we pray about that. And because it is a big, I mean, that's a big struggle in our heart, you know, because we are in a situation where there is, you know, one home that is not godly. And look, every day, you know, once we really started to understand the process of forgiveness and blessing and blessing with abundance, you know, and it's like, why wouldn't you want, you know, we pray about it constantly now, but why wouldn't you want, this is my child's other parent, you know, why wouldn't you want them to be a believer and to have that in the home? And you know, I mean, it's not happening yet, but, you know, we're praying for it. And then we asked just that someone, you know, it might not even end up being the parent in the home, but a grandparent or somebody comes into the child's life, you know, that can keep the anchor that we provide here, you know, the spiritual anchor. Because we do, when they're in our house, we do pray every day with the kids, and we do go to church, you know, on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights, and you know, they do have that spiritual anchor all the time. And
it goes back to when we started the show. We talked about, you know, I know it's cliche, but, you know, Jesus is the reason for the season. And so we focus on that. So even when the children are not with us, no matter what their environment, we're sure that they have a spiritual foundation. You know, train up a child in the way they'll go. And that's what we focus on. And that's really all you can control. And we're talking about spiritual versus non-spiritual, or maybe spiritual versus non-practicing. But, you know, what if it's a family with an absolute, a different religious belief altogether, or no religious belief? You know, we can't control what goes on in the other spouse's house, the other parent's house, I'm sorry. But we can lay that foundation when they're with us. And we really believe that those seeds are planted so deep in our kids that no matter what circumstance they go in, they're always going to come back to that core foundation.
It's really good. It's really good. I feel like I'm just scratching the surface on everything y'all have to offer, because as I've gotten to know you, I follow you now on Instagram and follow your lives, and y'all are passionate about what you're doing. Y'all really are. Y'all are all in, really wanting to live a life that honors God, but also builds a strong family.
Thank you.
And talk about the EXO Cruise. Y'all liked it?
oh yeah, it was amazing.
No, it
waiting
was.
yeah. No, I mean, it was really a fantastic. It was just a great time to spend together, and to also just get the feeding, while you're there. Of
You know what I tell you? What I
marriage
really
and
gained the
Christ.
most. I love the workshops. I really did. But I think from a man's perspective, you don't think of like celebrating marriage. You're just married. We're married. But like to be with that many couples, and there were couples from all over the country, and to see men, along with women, but see couples truly celebrating marriage, couples that have been married for 50 years, couples that were just married. It was, for me, it was so edifying to see, listen, real men celebrate marriage. So to be within that intimate setting on a cruise, despite the high seas and the rough water.
You're talking about real men. I got sick the first day on the boat. Thanks, Scott.
I had to bring that up.
Bring it up a little.
But it was, and being in that intimate environment, it was a wonderful experience. But I mean, it's like you want to be around your peer group, and couples who are seeking to celebrate and learn to grow stronger. That's the peer group we want to be in. And but the cruise itself, the places we visited,
It's
were
amazing.
amazing.
It's good. Thank you all for being a part of the cruise, and today, thanks for being part of the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a URL people can go to check out your blended family ministry, maybe even just a Facebook page?
Yeah, it's faithful.live.
Okay.
Faithful.live is our website. And then it's Faithful Remarriage is the Facebook page.
Okay, great.
And there's a lot of links back and forth. So.
I mean, y'all are into motorcycles, y'all travel a lot. I mean, y'all have so many other things, plus all the publishing things that y'all have done. I still have a lot more to mind from y'all. We'll have to have you back on the podcast at some point.
No, I mean, we do. We just feel there's, I mean, God, like we said, like Leah said, all the odds are against us. Law enforcement, remarried, special needs, the whole relocating, everything is against us. But by the grace of God, we've made it.
Amen.
And we want to share that. We feel that it's our duty and obligation and our blessing to share it.
Good.
And you guys are a wonderful part of that. And we appreciate y'all.
Well, thank y'all. Okay, welcome back to the XO Podcast. And we're all feeling good about the Christmas time, Christmas spirit. You just heard from Scott and Leah Silverii talking about blended families and the dynamics there going on during the holidays. Right now, we're going to talk about addictions and going through the holidays, maybe through a grieving process. I do know that we're not just talking about alcohol. There's a lot of prescription drugs out there that are abused on a daily basis, but during the holidays, people go to the prescription drugs to solve problems. I was watching a documentary this week. It was actually on Ric Flair, 30 for 30 with Ric Flair. And he was talking about how he went to go see a sports psychologist. And when he was going, if you haven't seen it, it's a great documentary, but he was going through this questionnaire, and the doctor was asking him questions and asked him, how much does he drink? And he put on there 10 beers a day and 5 mixed drinks.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And the doctor said, that's impossible. How long have you been doing that? He said, well, it's 1989. I've been doing it since 1971. He's like, every day? And they started talking about his drinking, and he just drank all the time. But the truth was that it was hiding something deeper in his life. He was very empty. He couldn't be alone. There's just so many problems there that the alcohol sort of masked.
Yeah.
And so it's a real problem. I don't think everybody drinks 10 beers and 5 mixed drinks a day.
Right.
No.
But you'd be surprised at how many people grab something that it takes the edge off, or it puts them in a different state of mind to escape what they're going through. So we're talking about addictions, and I know we're all for, you pastor a church and you all have a marriage ministry, you're all for helping couples succeed and deal with topics like this. So speak into this, Sean, and kind of bring some hope to people who may be feeling like they're in despair.
Well, I think even with the example that you just gave, he sought help. Now, regardless if that was because he hit rock bottom, I don't know the whole, the story behind it, but you can't heal a wound by saying it's not there. At some point, a person has to come out of denial. If I know that I have a certain vice to deal with depression or stress or anxiety or what have you, I need to be able to go to someone and get the help that I need, right, to make it through that specific addiction. And they're so common, and there's so many different methods, but usually at the end of the day, it's something at my core that's eating away at me, and I'm seeking some form of peace. I'm seeking for some sort of numbing agent or something of that nature. And so to me, why go another year with something that's superficial and being empty in a way, and it's never being filled? That temporal satisfaction is going to disappear. Why not go for something that's going to be lasting, right? And so when we think about the 21-day inner healing resources that you all have, I think that that's something that's huge, to be able to say, you know what, instead of me reaching for something that's inadequate, let me reach for someone who's sufficient. And God tells us that his grace is sufficient. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. And so if I'm at a place where I'm able to at least admit that this is a weakness and that I have an addiction, then I can reach for something that's better than a temporal, coping mechanism. I want something that's actually going to transform me. What better gift to give your family than a healed heart, right? A healthier version of yourself to be able to give to your spouse or to your children or just for yourself. Just to be healthy is nothing like being spiritually set free. And so I would say let's get away from the superficial and let's get to something that's real.
It's good. Well, some people are addicted to busy too. They're addicted to just going all the time. They can't slow down just to take a moment to just rest. Brady Boyd has a great book called Addicted to Busy. I think sometimes people use that excuse to not deal with their problems. They don't abuse a substance. They abuse their bodies. They just kind of go and go and go until they wear out. So
and whatever the bruise is, Christmas just kind of presses on it. I don't know what it is. It's because so many things are going on. It's not a happy time for a lot of people. They're either alone or it brings back memories from harder times. Whatever that is, Christmas just seems to kind of press on that bruise and reveal things that maybe are going on all year long, but it just turns the volume up on them sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, especially with like the loss of a loved one. I mean, this is a time of year that you may miss that person, on a higher level. And to that, I would say if an individual is struggling with that, something that my wife and I have done, her father passed away some years back. What we do is we'll pull out a photo album and we have pictures and we just kind of sit the kids down and we just go back through. And we make it a happy memorial rather than it being just kind of grieving in the corner, by yourself and just kind of struggling through it. We've made an intentional decision to say, we're going to remember their legacy and we're going to carry it on through his grandchildren. So we've hollowed out a place to be able to say, okay, instead of just kind of holding it all in and just going through it, we're going to put right on display the great memories that we've had with the specific loved ones that have gone on to be with God. And so,
but that first year had to be hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. The very first year grieving the loss of a family member who's been around, that has to be tough. And I know that most people will turn to a trusted source, a pastor or a friend to deal with it, but you have to get out there and talk about it. And that's a great idea to just honor the person every time. Make sure you set aside time to honor that person. The little things come up like the food you eat or, the moments, watching the Christmas parade or something comes up where it's like, we always did this together. Traditions remind you of the people you're missing or you've lost. And it is hard to.
But I'd say cry. Go ahead. I mean, especially if it's sensitive, it's fresh, it's a recent loss of a loved one, spouse, child, family member. Cry. Do it right there on the spot. Allow yourself to grieve properly. A lot of times people have kind of like in their minds, just this preconceived notion of a timetable of, I shouldn't be crying about this, any longer. I should be over it. I'm like, this is the way you get over it, right? And so I would say, instead of trying to avoid all the traditions you had, instead of trying to get away from the reality of what you're feeling within yourself, you need to talk about it with someone, but at the same time, give yourself the freedom to know that this is the natural course of grieving and it could be a healthy thing, right?
With Scott and Leah, we talked in the interview about, sometimes you've just gone through a divorce and those wounds are fresh.
It's tough.
And you're having to deal with ex-spouses sometimes and other things that can happen during the holidays. And whenever you're grieving and you're going through a season alone, maybe you're maybe not remarried, you're just kind of on the back end of divorce, holidays can be difficult.
Right.
And you can find yourself just wanting to avoid people, or you're the one that, wants to just drink to forget. And so do surround yourself with people that can be stronger than you are at that moment in time. And I know in our family, I always want to be one where I can be in control of the circumstance. I can be in control of my actions so that I can help support other people if need be. And we have great family, but in any family environment, there's always that one person that's having a bad day, or a bad year, or a bad life. You know, it's just they're the ones that, you know, constantly, you can just tell they're not doing well.
Right.
And I think it's important for everyone else to realize that they can be an impediment to helping them understand where they can get to if they can just kind of push through it. So that's good. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching the XO podcast today. We appreciate you tuning in. We hope it's been a blessing to your marriage. Also, thanks again to Dr. Scott and Leah Silverii. Please check out their Facebook page and what they're doing for blended families. It's good stuff. Also, we are a ministry here. We're a nonprofit at Marriage Today. We are asking you to consider giving an end-of-year gift to the ministry. You can go on our website, marriagetoday.com. We do appreciate it. Everything you do helps us do more to help couples succeed in marriage. We are all about that. Our XO conferences, our TV program, our online outreach, everything we do is to help couples and people succeed in their daily lives. So please go to the website, marriagetoday.com, and check it out. Also, subscribe to the feed. We also love questions and feedback. So if you want us to address a topic, if there's something that you want us to talk about or a question that you have, send an email to podcast@xomarriage.com, and we will fervently try our best to answer those questions on the podcast. Thanks again. Please do check out all the episodes of the podcast. Go to our page, xomarriage.com/podcast, and check out all the episodes. Subscribe to the feed. Tell your friends. Have a very Merry Christmas.
See you next year.